Good evening.
Good evening, sis. Bawoni.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I can see there's this military man there. His
Yeah.
name is, you know him, Abubakar, your set.
He got my mate now.
Adalo, military man, always on time. Don't mind me. Always on time.
Abaka,
Captain.
let me practice my outside a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, Kwana view.
Yeah, Kwana Bino.
Yeah.
So how does this thing work, Kenny? If I mute everybody, then you now mute yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you now mute yourself.
Why not try it and let's see? I mean,
let's okay.
Yeah.
Muted everybody. Okay.
So I'm on mute now. So
perfect. Nice to see you all.
Hi, Abaka.
That's interesting. So how's the weather there in where you are at?
It's very good. The weather is very, 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 very good. This is one of the best seasons for us. So I enjoy it a lot. So
okay. That's nice.
You
guys are always, I don't like I was talking to you, looking younger than you too.
Who?
You guys are looking younger.
Oh, who?
Is that part of the
you?
Is that part of the exchange thing?
I don't think so. I'm not alone, you.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. So I wonder, we should have Jose by now. Usually Jose is always on time.
He just came in now. So
okay. Dozy, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Okay,
good
bro.
afternoon.
Yeah. Hi, Dozy.
Hi, how are you?
Dozy in my set too. So I was always your Dozy with, I think I had a Dozy in 91 too. Or maybe it was ABU. Maybe it was when I was in ABU.
There was only one Dozy.
Oh, yeah, it was in ABU. No, I meant for my set. I thought I had for 91.
No.
Yeah, the other Dozy is ABU. We went to ABU together. Together.
Yeah, when we were talking earlier, there's one of our seniors, when we were doing the dry run, the test run. Okay, that's one of our seniors that came. Probably she, I don't know if she.
I saw a picture, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah. I think she did HS. I think she did HS. So Joy, I can see Joy got saying, oh wow, Abdul, okay. Okay. How about you guys are not trying to because I'm seeing all these Joys feeling Godsey. I think I know Godsey. Okay, we are here together. You know. So Dozy. Dozy? Is Dozy?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, okay. Dozy, you know, I went for a function in Calabar yesterday, and you know, unfortunately, very low city. Lots of hotels and all these things around, and very clean. You know, Calabar is a clean city. One people. You know, then somebody gave me. I was giving fisherman soup. Man, you know when you're going to say something as mimeji, was also, you know, I almost didn't leave Calabar again because of fisherman soup. I wanted to miss my flight. Okay, people, thanks for coming in. You know me, I always like to start on time. time means more than business. So my fellow discussants were meant to Kenny and Senior Ereta. But Senior Ereta got a plane schedule which postponed. So instead of her being at home now, she's still airborne. So she said she would join us later. In her stead, we have another equally competent person, my classmate. Well, I think you are in Liverpool House, does it? My classmate does it. 96. He's an attorney. He has been a civil servant.
I wasn't in Liverpool House.
Can't let it pass. Just pretend as if you didn't hear what I said.
Senegal House. No, we have to be very clear. You cannot claim everything.
For my sake, I'll be prouding around town. Best friend. I know my best friend. Yeah, was Senegal.
Senegal was created. You must have been in a different house.
No, it wasn't. It started off with Senegal.
Sorry, not to distract you. September 14, 1984. Senegal House already existed a year or two before that. Bonafide came in Senegal. All right, let's continue.
No.
I didn't Japa from any house to Senegal.
Okay. So we have Kehinde and we have Dozie. Ken, what else were you from?
Maybe I was in Limpopo too.
Maybe you have to be in Limpopo.
I was in Niger.
Oh, serious?
We're always waiting the 100 meters. What was the guy?
Yeah.
I think it was 2 years you said something attacked very fast.
Yeah.
Abdullah, Senegal.
Yes. Was it Senegal? He was drafted to Senegal. I think it was.
Oh, okay. Folks, I can see we have our guys are coming. We have Inter, we have Abiodun Banjo, we have Abdurazak, Abdulganiu. We have Dr. She's no longer a doctor. Veronica, I'm not a professor. I'm still seeing doctor here. We have Godson, one of my favorite young men. And we have Joyce Sule. We have Senior Modupe Olokun. Please, if you are my senior and I didn't give the right protocols, please forgive me. This thing is not putting senior or junior there. Just I know Victor one is my team. I don't know Ogene Faith is. Anyway, let's go to the matter at hand. Ladies first. Kenny.
Oh, good evening.
I muted everybody. I didn't know how you escaped that. Don't worry. Just mute yourself, please. Mute yourself, please. So that the distraction. Thank you so much. As I said, ladies first. Kenny, you going first. Okay. What is Japa to you? What do you understand? What is your own?
Definition
what do you understand by Japa? What's the definition of Japa? When you went, is it Japa?
No, for me it wasn't. Because I was working in a law firm that I was very comfortable. I was earning well, and it just so happened that God gave me the opportunity to come here. So I had my papers long before leaving Nigeria. So for me, it was a choice of future prospects and wanting a better life for the family I was going to be creating. So it was weighing the different options that which was going to give me more opportunities and more benefits for my background, because for me, a lot of people in my family were going back and forth. So it was just
so basically you're a global citizen, right?
No, please, Abba.
So what would you say Japan? What's your definition of Japa?
My definition of Japa. Wow, loosely, I would say making a choice of whether you want to continue where you are or look for other opportunities that would open more doors for you. And that's my own loose, I wouldn't say definition, explanation, is that if where you are,
does it taking it from there?
Go ahead.
Okay. Does it let's ride on the Japa syndrome. What would you say Japa is?
I was thinking about that as Kenny was trying to answer it, and the only thing that came to mind was economic escape from Nigeria, because a lot of the people who have to or who have jackpad, right? They left jobs in Nigeria for better opportunities, economic opportunities in wherever it is, whether it's Canada, US, or whatever. So I call it an economic escape because I don't count the people who, applied for school. People have been applying for schools for past centuries. Even though school is a current method of jackpotting, people apply to schools abroad now as part of, as a way to jackpot. But there are those who have always been applying to schools over the past couple of years. So that's not an issue. So that's, economic escape, bottom line, to summarize it.
Okay. And before you worked in the US. This is like your second coming to the US to work. You worked in Nigeria, you worked in Ghana. So you have a lot of experience in working in 3 different countries. Where would you say you've enjoyed most, work-wise, and with the other safety net, social life, street?
That's an interesting question and has been something I've been discussing with people lately. I'm a lawyer by training, and I'm in the international development space. Working for a law firm over here in the past, my area of focus has been narrow, for lack of a better word. You specialize in a particular area. For me, was finance and transactions, and that's all I did as a lawyer, right? But I worked in Ghana, I also worked in Nigeria, and also the work I did here, whether it's loan agreement or all of that, I did the paperwork and whatnot and moved on. The difference between the work I did here and the work I did in Nigeria, working for the Ministry of Finance, working in the think tank space in Ghana as well, where I did some work in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and the like, is that the work you're doing, you can actually see the impact. You can see it being reported in the papers. So that felt more fulfilling, that felt more impactful. And I had great bosses in those different environments. Now, I might be unique in that respect, but when I've been asked where I enjoyed the most, I would say my work in both Ghana and in Nigeria were the most fulfilling. And if the work I was doing, it was on a contractual basis, if the contract didn't end, I probably would still be in Abuja by now. So.
Oh wow. Okay. That's interesting because I really enjoyed that time as usual. Kenny, you have about I'm so intrigued about you. You have about 20 degrees or something like that.
No, please.
Yeah, I was wondering, man. So you have I know you have one from EP, right? And I guess you schooled in EP, right? For your first degree.
Yeah. I got my LLB, my bachelor's degree.
Okay, tell us about your sojourn.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, your Odyssey.
After I just cut now, I got my law degree from APU. To backtrack a little, I was a science student when I was in FGC, and I didn't do well, the truth. And so I had to re-strategize after seeing my WIAC result. And I'd always been passionate about law and things like that. So that was just the next direction for me. Sat for JAM, and I was blessed enough to be, accepted to the Faculty of Law in ABU, and then graduated, was called to the Nigerian bar over 20 years ago, and then moved to the US, and then went back to school to get different degrees. And I'm still a student. I mean, I've done things, and for me, having education has always been very foundational for me, and I'm passionate about that because I love to teach people, and I love to talk with people. And for me, I always would rather want to learn and get the degree so that I can speak with confidence in whatever I'm doing, because I have the competency. I will learn the competency of course in the classroom and then get the skills while working, which was the reason why.
Yeah, your choice of study of the course, was it like, you know what happens in Nigeria? You don't get your JAM for medicine, something, you know, or you go and do life science. I mean, was yours, was it out of a thought process that this is what you want to read so that you can position yourself abroad? I'm talking about yours.
No, well, actually, my father wanted me to study computer science, very interestingly. And I said, no, I didn't have the brain for that. And coincidentally, I'm now in IT, so full circle. And so, I mean, after coming out from FGC, the transition, I have family members who are attorney. So I have an uncle, he's late now, Justice Murio Kwanla, is my mother's cousin, and we have lawyers in his family.
I meant Baba like twice in my life. Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Your uncle. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was very nice. So, I mean, it was seeing him, it was my mentor. So when I got out, I was like, okay, this result wasn't good enough. What's the other alternative? And since I'd always been passionate about law, learning about processes, influencing decision, want to be a decision maker, then I just went enrolled, and that's how my legal journey started.
Yeah. Those yours is different. I know your first degree law was in the US. Before going to the US, I knew you had to stop by Kenya. Are you with us?
I'm with you, yes.
Yeah, I know you had to stop by Kenya before going abroad. I mean, Kenya is abroad. Go by
anywhere outside the country is abroad. And the Republic is abroad.
Yes,
anyway.
Kenya is abroad. Okay, you went to Kenya. Then I remember that your dad was a diplomat. Was he a diplomat in the Nigerian civil service, or?
No, he was a UN diplomat, so he didn't work for the Nigerian civil service. He was just an international diplomat.
Okay, but you're coming to FTC, you had to do something diplomatic circle. So.
No. I mean, I went to primary school in Ibadan, and when it was time for secondary school, the unity schools were always in play. So I went to FGC Kaduna. My brother went to King's College. That was just the plan all along.
Oh yeah. I'm mixing it up. It's one of our classmates who said that was Nigerian.
I think you're thinking of Tonyo Dutayo and Chika.
Tonyo, yeah.
And I think Fatai Alalu as well.
Alalu, okay. But then, so how did you get to the US, and what was your transition like?
So I think for those that remember, when we finished the class of 90 finished under the January to December school calendar. So we finished our WIAC in November of 1990. Then class of 91 came this set. was when the government decided to change the calendar to back to September to June or July, what it used to be. So what happened that year was we finished, we waited at home for admission. Then their set also finished the following July, so that you had two sets in the whole country trying to get into university at the same time. And it was just a crazy period. And my parents just decided, and then maybe like Kehinde had earlier alluded to, I was a science student, we were all about the fee can buy, which turned out to be nonsense at the end of the day. I didn't do well in that WAEC, and so the question was, what next, right? So I had to strategize. And the other thing, you talked about me getting a first degree in the US. It wasn't, law is not even considered a first degree in the US. So you have to you have to have a first degree something before you can go to either medical school, law school, and some other professional schools. So I ended up studying economics as an undergrad in the US. And because of that bunching of the two classes and trying to get admission and trying to do, I had to do, I think, London GC again, because at that point in time, I was already in Kenya. The idea was, and I think people also impressed on my parents, why try to rush them into a Nigerian university with what was going on? And if you also remember, universities in Nigeria closed down for a whole year. Up until, I think, June of 1993, May or June of 1993. So we're already talking, we finished in 90, universities were closed. There was this bunching up, and then universities were closed for a year. So there were a lot of things that were going on at the same time that just precipitated, okay, you know what? My dad saying, maybe you go to school in the US instead.
Okay, guys, listen to this. Over the past 5 years, there have been migration of Nigerians to countries such as United States, United Kingdom, Canada, and South Africa. Those are the major ones. Well, precise annual figures are challenging to ascertain due to Okay, let me just say that. In United States, as of 2019, approximately 461,000 Nigerians reside in United States. That's 2019. 2019, 2020, in UK, we have about 279,000 in UK. Canada too is rising. South Africa is not specific. Nigeria seems to travel a lot. That's for Kenny. I'll come back to you. Kenny, where do you think we travel a lot? Are we, nomadic, or what do you call it? Where do Nigerians travel?
I mean, I would say it's the economic japa, if I can say that. I mean, of course, because of the system that we have that needs a lot of improvement. And so I would think the natural progression is that people would want a better life. And we want to seize those opportunities. We're everywhere. And we're blessed with such intellectual capacity that wherever we go, Nigerians are noticed, even in the US. I mean, research shows that we're one of the most highly educated people because we value education. And that helps in our migration a lot. Because a lot of us travel out of the country as students, and then we get jobs, we remain. So, I mean, for me, because of the situation back home, maybe many of us would not even be in the US if the situation back home was similar. If the system is working as well as it is, for me personally, I believe I'd rather be in Nigeria if the system was ideally functioning like what I have now.
That reminds from the statistics, 51% of Nigerians born in the US work in management, professional, and related education. But then, when you compare us to the Asians, people say the Asians are way, way, way ahead of us. That's true. The way you're nodding your head. Why? What's wrong? are they beating us to it?
Well, I mean, also based on research that I've done, because you have to,
Yeah.
I mean, base your answers on statistics. There are different reasons, of course, and we have similarities with them as well. But one of the things that I've noticed is that close-knit support that they have. They help each other a lot. I mean, they network a lot. They would refer each other, talk about job opportunities with the ones that I've been in contact with. Like when I was in law school, we had the African American group, you have the Asian group as well. And whenever they were having the activities, you will see that close connection between them. While for us, or those of us from African descent, to even get us to attend the meetings, an issue. You will go to the meetings and a lot of people wouldn't be there. And these were places where we were supposed to develop the opportunities to meet other people, to talk about your aspirations. How can we build things together since we are all in the same profession? So for me, I think it's very, very essential that even though we need to have that individualistic mindset in some situations, you also need that communal support. There needs to be a balance. I'm not saying put all your life out there. That is not me. I'm a data privacy analyst, so no. What I'm just saying that when necessary, lean on that support. Ensure that you find that support if it is available. But I see that a lot of other international communities do better than us compared to the Nigerian community. I mean, that's my own opinion.
Yeah, what's your take on this?
So it just occurred to me, well, maybe not just occurred to me, what ails us actually starts from home. And I remember a long time ago, I was at, at the end of the term when the FGCs, start coming back. I had a cousin at FGC. So I remember coming back, getting to one of the bus parks to pick up my cousin. And I ran into another FGC Kaduna alum there. So I said, you don't go to the alumni meetings that were being held in Lagos there. And I remember the answer he told me, which was profound. He said, no, that he can't go to the meetings until he has made it, right? And, and I think I've shared this story with you in the past. If you won't show up to the meetings until you have made it, in which means you are out to, when you make it now, you come and, in quotes, show us or whatever. Whereas that's where the networking happens. Now, having said that, again, this was way before WhatsApp and before the Alumni Association became even more stronger. In fact, that's what inspired me to, I remember a long time ago when we were still using, HTML for programming websites, I found an old copy of the alumni. It had names and address for a limited number of people. So I tried to upload a lot of that and form the Yahoo groups before. Of course, we've gone through so many evolutions, Google groups, now WhatsApp and whatnot. So having said that, a lot has improved since then. But that prevailing mentality is still there, which is even if I show up abroad, I want to hide myself in one corner until I've made it, until I get that first job, until I accomplish that thing I, in quotes, set out to accomplish here. Whereas the people around you can be a resource, point you in different directions, tell you what to do. We had an earlier discussion about somebody who's practicing law in Nigeria or in a different country that has come to the US. What's the fastest route to practicing in the US or in Canada, wherever they might find themselves? And if you don't ask questions, you end up taking the longest route, or you may end up taking the longest route to that end result. So again, it's that mental attitude of, no, I don't want to tell people what I'm doing until I've made it and whatnot. Whereas sharing that information, of course, within reason, can help you. People can point you to resources you never even knew existed. And I'll give a good example. Like Kenny, this morning we were talking about practicing. I've always thought New York, and because those are the prevailing answers. If you take the California bar or if you take the New York bar, that's a good way to come in and get. But Kenny just shared some information this morning about other states where you can take the bar without having to go to school and be able to practice in the US once you start. And that's a good example of that.
Information share.
Information share.
Yeah. But when somebody wants to relocate abroad as a student, or somebody wants to go out, where should be your first port of call for information? Is it the embassy? Is it our, is it the High Commission? I mean, is it the internet? Where should be your first call? That's, I'm talking of people, people going to school, get work or something. That should be your first call.
I mean, for me, I would say, and this is no legal advice, please. I'm not giving advice.
Yeah. You're just
So that's the disclaimer. Definitely, I would say talk to an immigration attorney. That's part of the few things. You would need to do different things, but one of the things you want to do is to
an immigration attorney. Are you talking of immigration attorney when you are there or from Nigeria?
There's some attorneys in Nigeria that are knowledgeable about the practices here, who liaise with attorneys in the US. So, but I know there are a lot of resource and private companies in Nigeria. Those are, please, I mean, you can come in, jump in if I'm going offline, that you can also get information from as well. The most important thing is you want to verify that whoever you're contacting or you're just having conversation with is legit. Because we have a lot of immigration advisors. I mean, some of them call themselves that. In Nigeria, even in the US, even for some of us, I mean, some immigrants who are in the United States and need information on immigration, there are immigration advisors here. I'm not promoting those. I'm not. I'm just saying, whoever you want to talk to, make sure that the person is legit. And that is why I will say, talk to an immigration attorney. And even if you're if the person claims that they're an attorney, get their bar ID and does it please come in if I'm not accurate information here. Verify their status. Make sure this person is an attorney and it is legit. I had some close to me who worked with an attorney. This person claimed they were legit and they messed up the person's immigration papers, messed it up. And that it caused a lot of problems for that person because that attorney was not an immigration attorney. They didn't have any experience in immigration. So you don't want to talk to just any attorney. Make sure one of the things you want to do, talk to an immigration attorney. If it is the school, you're looking for talking about immigrating as a student, talk to the school. The school most likely will give you accurate information, but they will also refer you because I've worked in the university and I have a little knowledge about that area. I used to work in enrollment and the university will direct you on what to do. They usually will tell you, talk to an immigration lawyer.
Okay, Edozie, the next question I want to ask is that many people, I want to believe that before you can stay in a country, you must have been offered a job, unless you are old and have multiple visa, have citizenship of that country, right? Edozie? Am I right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. But majority of our folks get there not with this outside these valid papers. What are the exposure if you go into a country? What are the exposure?
So let me, to buttress Kenny's point, let me start with that. While you're in the country, because I know you started trying to point out the difference between being in the country and being outside the country. The embassies are a very good, or the high commissions are very good sources of information, especially for students. You're surprised at the number of programs, for example, that the US Embassy has in both Abuja and Lagos in terms of what you need to do to prepare and all of that. So that's one. Two is that for the most part, there's a lot of discussions around immigration, and Nigerian immigrants, for example, typically will end up here on a visa. They don't necessarily come in here illegally. So they'll come on a visa. The challenge is, I mean, if you take away those that have a green card or citizenship or came for school, even those that came for school, your visa expires at a point. Where they become, in quote, illegal might be when they've overstayed their visas. And that's where the challenge comes. And if you have no basis on which to remain, then you start playing, for lack of a better word, hide and seek with the system. And that's neither good for your mental health nor good for your living status. Now, I know that some people have tried to claim asylum. A lot of the old asylum rationalizations have gone out the window because they are wiser to it. So when you talk about before, military dictatorship was a good example, but that doesn't exist in Nigeria. I don't even know what the real reasons are because, again, I don't specialize in immigration. So that's where Ken is also right. You have to get a proper immigration lawyer because they are more current with what's amenable at the current time. By the way, in the US, and I'm sure the same thing in Canada, and even the UK, you can always look people up online to, first of all, find out if they are licensed as attorneys. In the US, it's on a state-by-state basis. So if you engage with a lawyer and you say, which state are you licensed in? And they say New York or Washington, D.C. or whatever, you can go to those states' websites and check if the person is licensed and up to date to start with. Checking if their immigration lawyer then takes maybe an extra step of trying to figure out what their practice has been, or maybe there's a referral. They've done this for somebody else before and done it successfully. But what's the danger? The danger is, like I said, they're playing hide and seek with the system. If you get caught, I've seen an instance where the person just got put on after maybe a hearing in court, because they'll take you to court, and the person gets deported. And then for the next 10 years, you're barred from entering the US. So that's the danger there. So yeah, let me stop there.
But Kenny, I don't know, we are, as Nigerians, as blacks, we are told that your profile by the system of policing and stuff like that. Have you had your own share of that? Because something happened to me. Sorry, something happened to me when I was in Houston the year Obama came. So that's when I started knowing about red state and all this kind of. So I don't know what my friend did, and this cop pulled us. And my friend was just put my hand on the dashboard. I was like, I just put my hand on the dashboard, So later I was able to say, man, you're black, be careful. So how bad?
I mean, I haven't had a experience of a police officer stopping me and all of that profiling. No. But what I do know is that some states are more open compared to other states. I used to live on the East Coast, and we have a lot of Africans there. It doesn't mean those profiling and things like that is not happening there, but you have like the sanctuary states that are more open and acceptable to us. So for me, what I've really noticed is not so obvious. So I would say it's not overt, it's not, and I'm trying to speak sense of my language here so that people are not misunderstanding. Because yeah, I can see you smiling. We
Okay, you know what thing, you know what?
Wait. I used to work as an investigator for discrimination and sexual harassment. So I do understand where you're coming from. And what I've noticed in my practice as an investigator for discrimination, if I'm understanding what your question was going, the underlying issue, I just want to bring that out, is that the way, one, it depends on the individuals that you're relating to.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've seen is that, and also with my personal experience, is that when I moved to the state I'm in, which does not have a lot of Africans, it was a lot more difficult to get a job. And it got to a point where somebody told me, oh, your name was a recruiter, an HR recruiter. And the person told me, your name is too ethnic. You need to change your name on your resume. And then you have too much civil rights, human rights stuff on your resume. Does it please chime in? You're too much as the person, it would be difficult to get you a job. Nobody's going to interview you. I mean, at this point, I'd gotten my degree in the US. I was home for almost 2 years. Well, one of the reasons I had a young child, I wasn't really aggressively looking, but I was looking. And that was what somebody who was supposed to help me find a job, since it wasn't working, I tried. I mean, I was submitting 100 applications, and I'm sharing this personal experience so that people will know that when you come here, it's not quick fix. You will pay your dues. Yeah. You will pay your dues. You will rise through the rank. What did I do? I had to start from the beginning. That's why they say when you come, America is a leveler. You start from the beginning. Then I had to take a much lower paying job and then rose and started building my experience. Why? I didn't have the experience in quotes that they were looking for, but I had already gotten my degrees. I'd been in the country for a couple of years. I was volunteering for various organizations. So I was building my experience. So the issue is also goes to networking and different factors. So those salient things can play a role in you getting into the job market. And one of the ways we can break through is through our networking. I didn't know anybody when I moved to this state. There are a lot of some Nigerians here, but they're quite far from me. And they weren't practicing the kind of job profession I want to go in, because when I moved to the US, I found out I couldn't practice immediately. And the next thing, people are like, oh, go into nursing. Just go into nursing. Why are you stressing your life? Go into nursing. I said, I don't want to be a nurse. I have a legal degree. I don't want to be a nurse. My brother, when the bill come, I do caregiver. So yes, I had to have a short-term goal and my long-term goal. I know eventually I want to end up practicing in the legal arena, but what can I do immediately to be able to get my bills paid? I had to work as a caregiver. Pardon my Yoruba. But that was my short-term goal, to be able to meet up things that I needed to do. And I'm not afraid to talk about it today because, hey, it's going to be helping somebody. Yeah. If you don't put yourself out there and network and reach out to people, you're indirectly shooting yourself in the leg. Because the system, one way or the other, might play against you. That's one side. Another side, go ahead.
But yeah, he's made so many interesting points. And I think the one that is clear cut is the need to have a clear goal when you're moving, right? To start with. Because like you said, this whole go and do nothing is always the answer that everybody seems to have. And I remember telling a cousin of mine, after advising her, and she went, because you will have, in some instances, you will have many mouths in your ears. So people told her, go and do nothing, go and do nothing. You make a lot of money. So I said to her, because she always talked about moving back to Nigeria, I said, so if you go and do nothing and stay there, because sometimes you get distracted from your primary goal, you get there, you're making the money and you stay there. And I said, I jokingly said, if you move to Nigeria, what are you going to become? A senior nurse in Nigeria? Like, what's the plan here? Right? It's one thing you're doing it as a means to an end, is another to deviate from your goal completely. So I see a lot of people, for example, like Kenny, who they are lawyers from Nigeria, they come and they just switch up and enter nursing because that's the easiest thing. And some of them never get out of it. So Kenny is a good example of somebody who stuck to her goal. Yeah, you did that as an on the way thing, but ended up going back to what you planned on doing. The other was a reference you were making earlier, this I think you were alluding to police issues, but also let me stick with name discrimination.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that with a name like Chukwudozie Opalobieri. By the time they see that on the CV, I can have the same experience as, there's Chukwudozie Opalobieri, there's Mohammed Seyi Gambo, and there is, I say, Josephine Oteri here. Be sure Josephine might be the one who is going to get that interview and get that job.
So does it, if I go with like a name like Moa Shea, is that good?
You might go with Moshe. I'm not advocating for changing your name for sure. This is where, Mo Salah. You can become Mo Salah. But anyway, all jokes aside, this is where networking is very helpful, because sometimes, we read names and there's an automatic bias, whoever that person is, right? And until you start to have that networking, personal connection, if I recommend somebody, given at least the experience I've had and people I've been in touch with, if I recommend somebody, the fact that the person is coming from me or recommended by me gives the person a leg in the door. So that when you get into a new city, get to meet people. That's the personal, your name doesn't describe you. And allow me to tell you a story. There's a Sierra Leonean, you can Google him. He worked in the UN system. His name was James Jonah. This guy, he was supposed to be interviewing for, I think, Undersecretary of the United Nations at the time. Anyway, he walks into this office. There's a white lady, she's secretary. He sat down, and when I guess it was time for his meeting, the lady came out, James Jonah, she's looking around. In her head, James Jonah looks like a particular kind of person. There's a guy there in a suit that is black as midnight, and when the guy stood up to say, and this was James Jonah telling us this story anyway, when James Jonah stood up and said, yes, I'm him, is he ready to meet with me? He said the lady just turned pink, because that's not what she expected. That's not who she expected. And on a different day, they might not even have called him. If his CV, obviously, James Jonah with the requisite experience. But if you had pictures going with our CVs, he may not have been sitting in that room. So sometimes, yes, the name discrimination is real, and people manage their way out of it one way or the other. Both the networking on CVs, people shorten their name sometimes, and of course, when you're doing if they've interviewed you and they like you, of course, you have to put your government name on your paperwork. So you go with your government name at that point.
So our agreements or our conferences that every community, every country have their process, they have their they have their nuisance, they have their they have their way profile. Even Nigeria, all this is so. All I'm saying, if you have that safety, that network of people, it's easier for you to get yourself, around all these challenges. Because like Kenny was saying, that was at home for 2 years. And somebody told that your name is very native, Then somebody was telling me yesterday, actually, that even the way you feel you the templates you use for your CV are different. I don't know if that makes sense. Someone was telling me yesterday that even the templates, when you're looking for the templates, that they are specific. I don't know.
So in the US and I think in Canada, we use resumes, right?
Yeah.
You know, in Nigeria, when I go to Nigeria, people like to put their names in big, bold letters, last name first. I never could quite get that. Last name first. But not only that, marital status, date of birth, place of origin, none of that exists. Nobody wants to know.
Yeah.
Is it even against the law? Nobody wants to know any of those details, your date of birth, your marital status, any of that before you.
So does it the fact that
Kenny, don't. I know where you're going.
Are not serious. So the fact that I have 2 sets of things to talk out, they're not serious.
It doesn't. Nobody cares. It's what do you bring to the table and what's on your CV, or what's on your resume. So the format, the format is different. In Nigeria, although I think in Nigeria we seem to be moving to the resume template now, and I see people removing all those specific details from their let me call it resume, or but you don't have a lot of that now. Of course, people, and maybe this is where Professor Ekundai or Professor Vero might differ. Those in publishing, obviously, because they have to list what they've published and the book they've written and all of that. So their resumes or CVs tend to be a lot longer, but it's tailored for the sector, the industry. But for the most part, yes, the format is different, and you have to make sure that you are following the template within the country, whether it's UK or whatever you find yourself, use the template that they use there. So always, and that's where you still have to talk to somebody and ask them, what's the format that applies here, and use that format.
If I can,
go on, Ken. Go on, Ken.
So before I then go into that, I want to kind of balance out what we're talking about, our ethnic name, and I would say everyone has implicit bias. Every one of us, implicit bias. And most of the time we don't know those are influencing our decisions subconsciously. So we have to make conscious efforts to ensure that we're not allowing those biases. Every one of us, even me, are not influencing things we are supposed to be doing, like employment opportunities. Who are you interviewing? Make sure whoever you're interviewing is qualified. So ensure that your resume very strongly to your competences, very, very strongly. Don't use passive words, use active words. Jose would speak to that. When I was in law school after graduating, they actually gave us like a guide of active words you can use.
Please give us an example. I don't understand this.
Okay, so active words that shows the action you've taken. So, for example, I was a program coordinator in a program a NASA program. I was working with a professor, and I was handling the compliance compliance framework and everything that had to do with the office. So of course, on my resume, I'm going to indicate that I managed the funding for the office and then ensured compliance, regulations were met, things like that. Jose, please, as I'm speaking. So it's not, I can't think off of my head now what a passive word is going to be. Use active words that shows you've performed those functions, you have experience in that area. And another thing that I noticed for us is that coming from Nigeria and coming here, language barrier, very,
I wanted to ask that.
very, very huge. A lot of us play it down. It doesn't mean we don't understand English. We speak English, but the terminologies are different for different industries, for the general communication. For the industry you're going to go in, research the terminology.
Terminology.
Make sure you use those on your resumes, because what's the point of submitting a resume if you're not communicating what they're looking for? look at the job description, ensure that whatever is in the job description matches what you can do. Weigh it side by side. Don't go and be applying for a job that you do not qualify for. If you don't have the meet the minimum requirement, don't give yourself a headache by applying for those jobs. If you meet the minimum, great. If you meet the preferred, even better. At least meet the majority of what they're looking for. So what I'm basically saying is
to know that
our resume to the culture here in whatever country you've migrated to or immigrated to. Understand the culture, understand language, use the preferred language in quotes. It doesn't mean you're not speaking English. It's just that you need to tailor yourself to the new culture and the new environment you found yourself. And one of the ways to do that, there are a lot of NGOs in different states that help immigrants. There are many resource centers in different states that help immigrants. Like the state I'm in, there are job centers that you can go to. You explain your background, you show them your resume, they will sit with you and then help you. They might not give you all the time you need. You still need to do the extra work on your own. They will provide the guidance you need, but you need to do the final work to make sure that your resume is matching the experience and the skills that you need. And then you're looking for jobs that gives you the opportunity to use your skills and get paid. Because, for me, I think one of the challenge I had then was, my resume was somebody just gave me a copy. I used that. And then another thing, if I may add, is that if you're a student, most universities, let me put it that way, they have a career development center. Career development centers that you can take resumes to. They would help you with your resume. They will sit down, you schedule a meeting. If you're not a student, look for recruiters online. You might need to pay for some money. They can help you. Those are different ways to be able to navigate the job market. It might be difficult. For some people, they might not have the money to do that. Go online, do the research yourself, network. People who are already in that industry, talk to them, share your resumes with them. They will help you with the language that you need to have on your resume. If I'm talking too much, don't worry. I'm very passionate about this job, Wahalani, because you're
not.
You're not.
Those are good points. Let me add that. I think and I tell my children this as well. If you're applying to 50 jobs, please do not use the same CV or same resume to apply to the 50 jobs. You are responding to a job description. Always read the job description and tailor your CV to that, because some of your experiences might not be, and especially in Nigeria, where in the first couple of years we're working for one uncle or something. I've seen some CVs, and I like to talk people through their CVs. But for those that just like to send CVs randomly, I don't think that's a good idea. I think make sure you're tailoring it to the job that you are applying for, because that way at least you get to the next step in their review process. The other thing, because we do it in fact, in the last 2 or 3 places I've worked, we're always looking at, okay, when did this person go to school? Because you write ABU, 1990 to 1994, or whatever be that, and then we'll have NYSC. Anyway, let me finish this point. You write NYSC, and then your first job started in 2000. There's a 5-year gap. As much as possible, don't have a gap, or be ready to explain that gap. And which is why in Nigeria, here people work part-time and all that. You don't get a lot of that in Nigeria. So sometimes people are sitting at home, literally, for 2 years or 3 years, running errands for their parents or their uncle. And that creates a gap, and it shows in the CV. So sometimes when you come and you're not getting those initial callbacks, part of it is they're wondering, where was this person for 3 years? And if you step back into the stereotypes, they won't say it because they can't say it.
No.
Maybe they did something and they were in jail for 3 years.
Yeah.
And they came out and that's the way they will rationalize. At least some people might rationalize where that 3 years went, because it doesn't make sense in the norm of the environment we're in. You don't really get those kind of gaps the way we have them in Nigeria. So again, you have to be careful about that. Make sure if you went to ABU 90 to 94, make sure 94 to 95, you can explain what you are doing, whether you are working part-time, and it doesn't matter whether you are paid or not paid. Who cares about that part of it, but you are doing something productive. The last point I wanted to make before you ask a question is, even for those who have eventually gotten here, apart from just applying directly and apart from the career centers and whatnot, you also have what they call temp agencies or temporary agencies, where you register with them, and at least for the first couple of weeks, months that you're here, they can say, okay, you look like you qualify for this. We have an office somewhere that needs somebody for a month to do X, something within your field. They will send you there. Then you're still on their roll, because what happens is that company pays them, they pay you. And so you can keep at it, and you might be lucky where in one of those instances, one of those offices like you to hire you full-time there. So that's another one that might be missing in the resources of people who are traveling to other countries. And I think you have them all over, US, Canada, UK, and the like. The other, frankly, especially for those who are in more professional environments, like the World Bank, the IMF, IFC, we seem to forget the international organizations sometimes. Those guys hire, and they even handle all your immigration work for you and all that. So my neighbors who are here, I have 3 neighbors that moved over from Abuja that got jobs at the World Bank as, I won't call them secretaries, but they're some sort of assistants. I don't necessarily delve into the details of people's lives, but they're here in Washington, D.C. with their families. So those are
those you're not good, you're just telling me that. So me, your friend, see, I don't like, I can't be a secretary. Oh, down.
You cannot be a secretary because you will carry placard against yourself one day in that office. Anyway, so sorry, you had a question, Seyi.
Yeah,
sorry,
I want to ask you
that. I mean, I was going to talk about the temp agencies as well.
Okay.
Also, feel that experience. I know a lot of Nigerians that might be home for a while. It might not be due to their fault. Maybe they couldn't get a job and they couldn't get something to do. Find something to do in Nigeria. If there's an office you can volunteer for just to gain that experience. You don't have that gap, please do it. Please. And then when you come to you immigrate to another country, look for volunteer opportunities.
Yes.
For a student, look for internship opportunities. Volunteer opportunities is very key. Even if they're not going to pay you, especially if you're new to the US. It's not easy to get those. A lot of companies are very sensitive because they don't want to expose you to their data and to their processes, and you're not being paid. If you can tell them you're willing to sign a document that will indicate that you're not going to disclose the data. Some of them might not even agree, but look for, like, a lot of states, positions in the states where you're in. Go to the county. The counties, they have volunteer opportunities. Enroll in it, just to gradually, but make sure that whatever you're volunteering in applies to your long-term goal. Don't just go and volunteer in just anything just because you don't want to have a gap.
It has to be aligned.
A target. My long-term goal is to work in IT. I'm not going to be volunteering as a caregiver. They probably won't even agree, because that one is a different thing. But I just use that as an example. Make sure that your short-term goal aligns with your long-term goal. Whatever, like for me, working as a caregiver, that experience didn't count towards what I eventually found myself. But I had to take that because that was the only thing that was available to me at that time. Please, we're sharing this information with you because when you find yourself, should you find yourself here, we don't want you to make some salient mistakes that some people have made And
Kenny, Kenny, that reminds me. There's one of us, his daughter was going to Canada. She was resuming school in Canada. And he couldn't go with her. And that was her first time out. And he needed to get her accommodation and stuff like that. So I rang up the chapter chairman of Canada, Boyega. I said, look, we have this issue and she's coming to me. Oh, funny enough, I'll be in that state. I'll pick her up and I'll make sure she gets settled. And he did that. And I mean, that was sweet. And, you know, the senior was so happy about that. I mean, from here we could make calls and things like that. You know, and I assured him that it's his daughter. And you know how it is, daughter, man. I said, don't worry. Boyega is a nice person. Now, with all this you have said, we have, and by the way, I'm happy that some of us are listening now. By end of next month, we're going to split North America into the Canadian chapter, Canada chapter, US chapter, because we've been able to get a lot of people in US now, because we couldn't get those numbers as so she can ready. So what I'm trying to say is that, do we still need, like, within the ESCO, or do we still need a unit that would cater for people coming and, you know, enlighten them, form them? Or do you think the ESCO is enough to meet this, you know, inquiries and stuff like
that? For me, I would say they can do that, but it will be good not to give them that extra responsibility of having to carry the burden of handling, because this is huge. You're going to talk to a lot of people, and you want to be cognizant of other people's time and others as well. And what about if they are not interested in doing something like that? So that's another thing you need to find out. What about if the ESCO does not want to be involved in that kind of a thing? Find people that you know are willing to be open to talk to people. I think there should be a separate unit, and that unit should be based on interest. So it shouldn't be because I'm an ESCO, then I should automatically take that responsibility of talking to people. What about if I'm not interested? I'm not saying I'm not an ESCO. I'm just playing the devil's advocate. I know, but smiling.
There are people that have a passion. People that have a passion for it to come out and, you know,
and help other people. It's not everyone of us that want to take on that role. It's not everybody that wants to do that. So you need to find people.
Because I'm thinking of, you know, our ESCOs in the diaspora, like legal units, because many of these things start with legal things. But, well, a legal advisor or something like that. But those are what's your take? Those are, you have been self-president, you have been...
I think that maybe this is where I differ from Kenny. I agree with that on one hand, in the sense that it has to be people that are interested, but I think that's why we have the EXCOs, right? It might not be their responsibility, but there has to be a point of contact, and then they can direct whoever comes to them for, because we're saying this now because you're here, but if you step away and all is said and done, when somebody needs that help, sometimes you might not even know who is this person that is responsible for helping people, advising people, whatever. So
it still goes to the ESCO.
It still goes to the ESCO. Then say in North America, Boyega can say, oh yeah, Kenny is passionate about this, or she's someone that is good at this, and call Kenny and say, I'm going to send somebody to you. Are you okay with it? Yes. And then she shares that person, or, you know, he shares the details. I think I still think you still have to go through the EXCO. I think they do that in the UK as well. They have a strong alumni group there. Again, if I had to call anybody in the UK, for example, if I was trying to do something in the UK, I know to call the EXCO. I wouldn't know who is this individual that is responsible for this. So that's the angle I'm coming from.
So, but I think if you're going to create a unit for that, then somebody who is going to be mean, heading that unit should be part of the ESCO, because that way, they have that authority or background. And it's easier for people to reach out to them. And then when you're sending out the things about the ESCO, the information would be there and it's easier for people to reach out to them. For me, I think, my opinion, and we can talk about this from till today to tomorrow, but the final decision is on you guys. But I think we do need that resource for people to be able to promote what we're trying to do, which is to help other people so that they don't find themselves in unnecessary negative situations.
By the way, most EXCOs, we have a welfare person, even though that word has been bastardized. But this falls under welfare as well, and the welfare person can direct you to the person that can speak to you about a particular issue, whether it's school admission or
because strengthen the welfare. Because strengthen the welfare and tell them that they should look out for this and that. Do you think there's any age barrier in this relocating, or but do you think there's, because I'm in my 50s now. I'm wondering
it shouldn't be discriminated.
I just want to know if I'm allowed to dream.
No age discrimination.
Does everybody say?
Kenny has answered the key question, but I think she's also talking like a lawyer the way I would respond. I mean, there are a number of things where we say, we don't want to know your date of birth or this or that or whatnot, right? But you can't tell someone when to emigrate or whatever reason, right? I was watching a video on Instagram yesterday. It was a family, I think it was at Christmas time. So I think each child, there were 4 kids in total, 4 children who had to talk about what Christmas was like for them. And the grandma was there. So when it was grandma's turn to speak, grandma said, well, this Christmas is not doing it for me because there's nothing going on here. All you have is just your family members around you, nobody else, and nothing else is happening. That if she was in Nigeria, her family would be there, friends and people would be around, there'll be lots of eating. So her concept of what Christmas should be like is just different. Here, people are individualistic. I live in an apartment complex. I don't even know who my next door neighbor in the next apartment is, or even 3 apartments down the line, but that's just the life. But when I lived in Surulere, I mean, everybody down the street from here to the end, I knew who they were. So that is a different kind of life, right? So at an older age, when I tell people I miss Nigeria, when I'm in Abuja, I call Deji. I said, okay, oh yeah, let's go to City Park and go and eat fish or whatever. Or it's true. You don't get, it's not as here. It's almost okay, Kenny. Today is Saturday. Let's meet 2 weeks from now at 4 p.m. And Kenny might still call me Thursday before that Saturday and say something came. So it's a different lifestyle. And the younger you are, the better. Obviously, you enjoy it more. Not going, you can be all over the place. As you get older, I don't want to say you're setting your ways, but there are a lot of things that don't frazzle you. Clubbing is the least of my problem. I want to go to work, come back, and it's me and my TV and Netflix. It's a lonely existence to a certain extent if you don't have, especially if your kids have grown and left or are in school, for example. It's a different kind of life, I have to say. But having said that, nothing prevents. I have an aunt that is doing home health care in North Carolina. Of course, that's my mom's sister, but that's what she chooses to do. All her children have left, and 1 is here, 2 are in Nigeria, and she has just decided this is what she's going to do. But it's like Kenny said, discrimination in moving.
We'll soon be around. We'll soon be around. Kenny, go on.
I'm going to speak from personal experience.
Yes, please just do go on.
US. So I wasn't very young when I moved to the US. I'd already advanced a lot in age. I think it's, like you said, to allude to and buttress what you said, Dozie, having that early movement is very, very beneficial. one mindset and things like that. And I think on looking at it from the job perspective, and this is my personal view, don't have the discrimination law here that says that you shouldn't be discriminated against based on your age when you're applying for jobs and things like that. Expressly said in the law, but a lot of things I've noticed with different laws and regulations, and this is my own personal opinion, this is not legal advice, please, disclaimer. That age, saliently, impliedly, people can still use it, and they're not going to expressly tell you. No employer is going to tell you that they're breaking the law, that they're discriminating against you. No. Nobody is going to tell you that. Does it play? Is it possible that it could be influencing decisions? Maybe. It's easier for you when you build, and then in terms of building experience, if you build a whole lot of experience in Nigeria, that might not be accepted. I said might, in quotes. People have been fortunate where they've been able to transfer, and I'm going to use the word transferable skills. Transferable. When you're doing interviews and you don't have experience in the US, you want to expressly talk about your skills that are transferable from what you were doing in Nigeria to the US. Even if you're transitioning from different jobs within the US, you want to focus on your transferable skills to the new position. So if you've built so much, a large chunk of your experience in Nigeria, and then you're coming here, especially if you want to end up in the professional arena, professional, I'm stating again, it's easier for us to get the care job, the nursing job, the caregiver job. I'm telling you, fast, you will get it. There are a lot of jobs for us as Africans that is easy, very easy for us to get. But if you want to be in the professional arena, you need to position yourself well. You need to have the appropriate skills. And there will be things that will silently, no employer is going to tell you that, no. But possibility of those things impacting you might be there. Might be. So,
but the general consensus I've seen now is that we have to work on our country, Nigeria. So that's it. A big number of people will be out if we have the basic things. If Nigeria is working full state. And I've been asking, I don't know, since you are just okay. Somebody said, yes, sir. I do have a question to ask because I'm interested in moving to US. Please give us a question. We don't gossip. Just go to the question. We know, just ask a question if you want to. In the next 10 minutes, we'll be rounding up. So if you have a question, just ask a question. You don't need to. If you guys are hearing me, right? So Kenny, you want to relocate back to Nigeria, right?
I want to be able to maintain two.
Okay.
Yeah. Presence.
Is it the lawyer talking? Is it the lawyer talking or my Kenny?
I want to maintain two presence.
Let's see. Is there a question? Did Godson have a question?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking him. That if he has a question to tell us now. He said, I do have a question to ask because I'm interested in US.
Godson, go ahead and ask.
Please go ahead and ask. Okay. So you schooled, you guys schooled. Is there a marked difference in? Okay, the question is there. Thank you so much, I've gained a whole lot. Okay, that's the Sophia. Sophia, I know this Sophia, you're not going anywhere. I hear together. I will report you. Sophia, all this one you know. I know some of you here, we are not going together. We are going together. So
you sounded like you were going to ask a question about.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. So now, schooling abroad, schooling home. What is the standard? My son is doing his master's abroad, and the master's is for like 3 years. And when I first saw the first year, I had to ask him that, you think these people can still maintain this information, education for the next few years? Because when I saw the first 4 years, the body of knowledge, I was shocked. The level. So I want to tell you, is there back different? If there is, then why is it that our guys in Nigeria do very well in the school system?
So first of all, Nigerians are very smart, if I may say, right? Very smart, very hardworking. What we are lacking is, for lack of a better word, I would say academic resources. Why do I say this? In secondary school, I learned economics, right? And in the US, I also learned economics. But what I found with economics I was learning was more, I would call it applied economics. It's not just book economics. Now, the brilliance that Nigerians bring is that they take that book economics because they know it very well, and they apply, and the US system in a way is even simplified a bit because it's very practical, but it's very, and I'll give a good example. They talk about demand and supply, and they talk about demand and supply of apartments in an area. And they say, okay, there's a stadium that's going to be built down the road. What does that mean for demand and supply of apartments? In Nigeria, we're doing if demand for apartment go, if the demand for sports tickets to this place goes up, maybe people want to live nearby or whatever. But here they'll tell they will teach you about traffic patterns. What would that do to traffic in the area? What would that do if there's a lot of traffic in the area? How does that affect home prices and all that? So there's a drilling down that we didn't necessarily do in Nigeria that was more academic, but we're able to take that academic one. Then what we're doing in America is adding on that practical or applied part of what we're learning. And we're like, oh, wow, okay, this is what this is all about. In law school, let me also give this example. I did law school in Nigeria after I had gone to law school here and I had practiced here. And I was trying to do law school there in terms of answering the questions the way they would answer it here, which is, again, application. But no, the Nigerian law school wanted you to spit out on paper exactly what they gave to you in the notebook.
Yeah.
That's not, unfortunately, that's not a practical, if you go into an office, that's not the way it will work, right? But they want you to spit out everything exactly the same way. If you deviate, you've gotten the right answer, you've gotten the process there, but they'll still mark you wrong because you did not give it to them the way they gave it to you. And I think that's what's off with our system a bit. The system is great in terms of the learning. You learn the stuff and whatnot. People are able to take it here and do very well here. So
let me take you on that question. Since we have Professor Vera here, she's a law professor. Vera, if you are hearing us, this system that is it a marketing scheme that demands that you should give us what we gave you word for word? Please, you could just answer us, send us the text.
Yeah.
I want to know if that's the marketing scheme thing. Then the questions are coming in now. There's somebody that says there is one of us says I am a lawyer in Nigeria. What are the things I need to do in addition to immigration process in order to be able to practice law abroad? And which country would you recommend? So that's two. Want to practice law abroad? But I mean, when it gets here, what else? I don't know if you get the question right. Should I repeat it? Kenny,
I do. I think Vera was about answering the question you posted to her.
No, I'll go back to Vera's one, but you can.
Oh, okay.
You can just...
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Vera. So I'm just. I see you want to come. Tell me, Vera, please.
Yes, you asked a question.
Yes,
about I think Dose gave said something about the law school and the way we teach, the expectation. I must tell you, things have really changed. My own son is in the law school now, and the way they teach them in the law school now and what the expectations during exam is different from when we were there in law school almost 25, 26 years ago. Things have really changed. Law school is more of practice now. They deal more with skills and practice than theory, which was what it was during our own time. Even universities now, especially the private universities, things have really changed. Things have changed. The education in Nigeria have really changed from what it was when we were there. So, because I'm a lecturer, I'm a professor of law in a university, and I can tell you, and I've been there for several years, over a decade, things have changed, different from when there. Things have really changed. I just want to correct that. We are getting better. We're not there yet, but things have changed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prof, for taking our time to do with us. Really appreciate it. Okay, so Kenny.
For me, is having studied in Nigeria and then in the US. I know for the private institutions, there's a huge difference. The private institutions in Nigeria are a lot better. For the public universities, or the universities, I really don't know a lot about them. But based on what was obtainable when I did study in Nigeria and what I'm doing now, I mean, what I've done in the US so far, is the curriculum makes me analyze issues. I'm not just garbage in ABU. Then we go cram, put down for head, go pour it down. Law school to the same thing, and it helped me. I was able to graduate when I was supposed to, law school, university, and all of that. But with the US, it gives me more opportunity to be able to utilize the knowledge I am learning, because I'm able to practicalize what I'm learning. So while learning, I'm also at the same time building the practical skills. I mean, with the program I'm doing right now, you have the theoretical part of it, and then the instructors will give you things you need to do practically to be able to use the knowledge you've learned in the theoretical part of it. So it's more application-based, analytical. Yeah.
We have about 3 questions, and I think they are just about the same. You know, the first one is somebody that said, "I'm a lawyer." That's question I asked you. Then, what are the things I need to do in addition to immigration process in order to be able to practice law abroad? Maybe you can use your own example. He wants to relocate. He's a lawyer, wants to relocate. He wants to be
in the US.
Yeah.
As long as you have the right immigration documents and you're here and your status is legal, that is very foundational, first and foremost. Your status has to be legal. Then if you're going to go, depending on the state you want to practice in, that would determine a lot of things. Like when I came here, the state I was residing in, the requirement was that I needed to go back to law school and get the JD, the Juris Doctorate, in order to be able to qualify to sit for the bar. You can get the Juris Doctorate. If you don't pass the bar exam, you're not going to be able to practice as an attorney. So it's just like in Nigeria. You go study law in the Faculty of Law, then you go to law school for another 1 year, sit for the bar, you pass, then you can practice. So here you get the JD. So it's like going to the Faculty of Law. That is the JD. Then you go sit for the bar exam. If you then pass, then you can practice. A lot of people get the JD, but if they don't pass the bar, they're not going to be able to practice. So have that at the back of your mind. You need to pass the bar in order to be able to practice. Now, some states would allow you, if you get a master's degree in the US, would allow you. Some states would allow you. I can give you the information. I sent the information to Dozie earlier. Would allow you to sit for the bar as long as you meet their requirements. You'll be able to sit for the exam without having to go back to school here and get the JD. Some state, majority of the state, you have to go back to the university, get your law degree, then you can qualify to sit for the bar exam. I know for California, those are the two popular ones, California and New York. If you meet the requirements, I think for California and New York, you have to have a master's degree. They have certain specifics, the states. But a few states, I can count them on the fingers on my fingers. I'm not sure if they're up to 5 would allow you to do that.
Okay, this for you. This question is for you. And it goes thus. How do I get started to move to the United Kingdom this year? He wants to move now this year, in January. He says so that he wants to know the best medium to move in order not to encounter problems with immigration institution over there. Now, this is the catch. Should he relocate through a job visa or school visa? Now, I mean, as you said, we are just sharing our personal experience. The people here are not, they're not talking as consultants, just their personal experience. So I want us to get that basically all the things we are, apart from the experience and the update, most of these things are something like check on the web, website, go to UK, this and ask for all these things. But I believe does it want to chip in one or two things for that? Does it?
No, so if you ask me about the UK, I might have a sense of that. The UK, I practically don't have any sense of how folks have relocated. Again, the school route has typically been people have applied for a master's, and then when they get to the country, start making plans for, I think the folks in the UK call it a stay or something, but they start looking for ways of extending their time. Typically when you do a master's, for example, after you graduate, I think you have a year of what we in the US call optional training, OPT. So it gives you a year after graduation to work in the country. And I know people in the US who have, spent that year trying to regularize their stay. I would assume it's similar in the UK. Like Kenny would say, I'm not an immigration attorney, so when it comes to the UK, my knowledge of how that approach works is I'm basically transposing the US experience to the UK and based on what I've heard from people who I know who have moved. So you might want to, there's some research that needs to be done on that if it's the UK you're interested in going to.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. April, it's the same thing. I'll tell you. It said, because these are just wide question, open-ended. It said, I need to know how to locate. I am a photographer. It's the same thing. You go to this country's websites, you go to the High Commission or the embassy website, and they have the steps, that you could take. But as you know, you could go to school there and use that one to stabilize and get your citizenship, your green card. So all these things are part of what we have been discussing. Says the photographer. So and folks, I think we are winding up. Okay. Does it share? You have shared the link, right?
Yeah, I just shared 2 resources that Kenny shared. This is around the question of being able to practice law in the US. Being able to take the bar in certain states without having to go to law school. So you don't, for some people, like there's an Ethiopian lady I was advising last week. They don't want to spend the money that will be required to do that master's or to do that JD. JD is 3 years. The LLM is a year. It still costs a lot of money. But if you plan it, for the person who asked the US question, you can end up in one of the states that allow you to take the bar without going to school. But there are requirements, like I would say, you have to then go to, say, for a New York State, you have to go to their bar, this thing. There might be requirements there. You have to get a letter of good standing from your law school in Nigeria. You have to get a recommendation from a professor that taught you those things. In addition
to different states with different
everything in America is on a state-by-state basis. So if you move to a different state, for example, you need a different. Well, I guess that's the same as Nigeria, but unlike in Nigeria, you get called to the bar and you can practice anywhere in Nigeria. If I move from one state to the next, I can't practice in that next state
except federal federal laws, laws that has to practice that has to do with federal jurisdiction. I think like bankruptcy and things like that. You might, if you, yeah.
But generally, the way people think about it, generally, the way people think about it, you need you need to be licensed in that next state.
In that state, yeah.
Useful to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Okay. What I want to know is that I have my first degree in Nigeria. So now, if I want to practice law, I just need to go to law school. I mean, I just have to. Why are you laughing? Kenny, more serious. When I finished my tenure as a president of alumni, I'm coming to study.
No problem. Like. Okay,
so
let me to that.
Are you saying that my first degree in Nigeria is okay to do law?
Yes, let me answer that. Like I said, I used to work as an enrollment advisor for a university, so I'm a little bit knowledgeable about that. One thing you need to do if you know you want to transfer your degree from Nigeria to the US, you need to have your degree evaluated while you're still in Nigeria.
Nigeria.
And do that. If you have somebody in the US here, you can sign up this, and this is not promoting the service I'm talking about, the business. It's World Educational Services. They're in New York. If you sign up with them and pay the requirement fee, they will contact your university in Nigeria. Your university will send your transcript to your transcript will be evaluated. And if you meet and then they'll give you a copy of your transcript. Then when you want to apply for school, that's one way. That's one way. Don't let, I'm going to talk about the other. Then your transcript, that was the way I did it. Your transcript will be sent to the university, and then you can gain admission into law school. Or you have to sit for the SAT, dossier, right?
Okay.
An exam to sit for.
TOEFL.
No, it's not SLT. What's it called? Dossier.
It's the LSAT.
LSAT, sorry. You have to sit for LSAT. Then once you qualify, then they can admit you. Now, for me, I did go in for a master's degree. Now, because I got a master's degree from the university, I didn't need to sit for the LSAT. And then when I got admission to then do my doctorate, my JD, this was over almost 10 years ago, I didn't need to go to school for 3 years. I needed to do 2 years because I already got a higher degree, a degree that was higher than the JD. Now, some universities, based on the degree you have from Nigeria, they might ask you to do the 3 years. So you need to find out what the requirement of the school is. Yes, you might, for the JD, it's 3 years. And then for me then, why I didn't do that was because as of 2015, when I got admitted, I was going to be spending the estimated amount for 1 year for the JD was $50,000.
For 1 year?
For 2 years. I was supposed to go into school for 2 years, but because of I didn't want to get student loan, I decided not to go that route.
100,000.
So you need to also weigh all your different options. If you want to come here to study law, are you willing to get student loan? If you're not, if you want to pay out of pocket, I don't know how to do that. So you factor in the financial commitment. Do you have the energy and the time to be able to give it what it needs for you to do well in law school? There's no point paying so much money for the JD and you don't pass the bar. Think about that. Very, very important. So the person to practice law in the US need to be aware of that. Are you going to give it the time it needs for you to study? You will study hard. The bar exam is extremely hard. I know people have done it 3 times, 8 times before they pass. The focus is if you start, make sure you go all the way to pass the bar exam. But also have that at the back of your mind. You're going to racking a lot of student loan.
Okay.
A lot.
Kenny, I can't thank you enough. You would.
Thank God.
It's like you're a star. I should take your autograph.
Dose is the star, please.
Leave Dose, John.
Is any more money?
Dose, people are taking. No,
compliance.
Dose is a big friend. People are taking jobs.
Let me echo
people are taking
what
jobs. Dose did not call me. That Dose is not telling me, yeah. When, as I said it now, I know CK people, everybody they are applying to do it now. He's able to tell me inside. They say, oh guy, this is the happen. Dose, just forget. This year, I'm so
Kenny,
folks,
I'm a civil servant. Let me quote what our president did today.
So, Kenny, on a serious note, thank you so much. That's been very enlightening night. Thank you for taking out your time. We've been at this. Most of the questions, gave us to write. You wrote for us, and thank you so much. May God honor. You've always honored us. When we have interventions, you always give it back to the school, and we are doing this because we know that many of our people want me to easier. They said information is power, and I've seen that a lot. And Dose, see this Dose, not only if you call you bad person, Dose speaks Yoruba fluently. Just as he speaks Igbo, he speaks Yoruba. So anytime you want to tell people, just speak to Yoruba.
I'm using you, so you would keep quiet.
Dose is really bad boy. Dose is bad boy. Amala, everything you can do. Dose, thank you so much. I don't take our friendship for granted, but I just know that anytime I'm sport, just like I was today, the second guest speaker and our plane, our flight schedule changed, so she's still airborne, and so I just called you and said, this in the app and everything like that, and left everything to be here. We say, God bless you, man.
So I can tell Senior Henrietta to mount the table when she comes down from that flight, Abby.
I didn't hear that. The network is not too good. I know I have to edit this one from this. So, folks, thank you so much. We'll get the recordings ready. We put it on our various platforms. We'll be having interventions like this, and just to tell you that we have a global alumni association. So you should expect more of this. This year, as I said, we have to make sure that we position ourselves for all the opportunities that might be coming within the country and outside. Thank you so much. God bless you. Have a blessed weekend. Thanks, Jose.
God bless you all.
Professor.
Thank you
my professor. Can you
imagine? For all the people that stayed up because I know it's 10 p.m. in Nigeria, stayed up to this time to listen and whatnot. My pleasure. So we don't take this for granted.
It's such a pleasure.
Yeah.
Professor Vera, we'll talk to you on the other side.
I'm going to hang around if anybody has a question for me. I don't know. Those still.
No, you can. You can actually, but officially we are closed. Then, Dose.
Yes.
Dose, why don't you speak English like Kenny? Your English like they are not. See Kenny.
No, I'm not speaking English. English.
No, so
from Nigeria.
That's the other thing.
Can you imagine?
No, so let me tell you. One day, I used to be the president of the African students when I was in uni here. That whole hearing, you know what I'm saying? I can't do that. I'm sorry. I heard my brother speaking like that once.
I'm doing, you know what I'm saying?
No, I'm not saying that's what you're saying. No, he wants me to have an accent. This guy speaks to everybody. Both my guy in the office, the Igbo man in the streets. Can I have a cup of coffee? If you cannot hear what I'm saying, ask me to repeat myself, and I'll go, can I have a cup of coffee? But that whole, you know what I'm saying? I can't, even as I'm trying to even pretend to say it, I'm irritated at myself. So Let's keep it real. And Seyi, if I start speaking like that, you'll be the first person to come and start making fun of me. So let's.
I mean, give me the opportunity now. Get the opportunity to make fun of you.
I think if I'm allowed to use this as use this example.
Yeah.
For me now, I think our background matters a lot. Where we're surrounded, anybody, we all have accents, all of us. I mean, I moved newly to the US, and then this person was telling me you have an accent. And this person had strong Southern accent. And I'm like, duh, you have a serious Southern accent as well. So don't tell me I have an accent. So if somebody, from the Nigerian perspective, like, it won't funny. I've always spoken like this. I don't know. Because of the environment where I grew up, we spoke a lot of English. And I think that, in a way, is helping me. Some people might be exposed to the same environment and might not the same accent that I have. So we're all unique. We're all beautiful. Our accents are beautiful. We're wonderful. And we're not going to, we're all good. So even the Americans, when they tell me I have an accent, I tell them, I'm sorry, you have an accent too.
Oh, yeah. You know, funny enough, that's why I like University of Lagos. Those days, Morimi Babes, I don't know if you have, so they have not been to the airport. Tobas for you, go in there. Tobas fun. You know.
But guess what? A lot of that too is learned from the movies, right? Because
movies,
Kenny made a good point. If you hear somebody from the East, they sound one way. You hear somebody from the Bay Area, California side, they sound a certain way. But they're not so distinct. It's when you hear somebody from Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, you hear them speak. That's when you would you will look twice and say, who is this talking and why are they talking like this?
Are you sure?
But it's the same thing.
Are you sure in America? What's that?
But I guess it's the same thing all over. Even here, you hear some people about this and say, people are only you not hear them saying that, and the same thing in the East.
I have a family friend from Umar here. When their mother talks here, I can't understand a word of what she's saying.
Wow.
And she's talking fast too. So it's not Central Igbo, but it's a dialect of Igbo. And I just never understood what she was saying. So I used to ask her, son, what did your mom just say?
Guys, Kenny, let's Kenny, I'm traveling tomorrow. I'm heading back to Accra tomorrow, very early tomorrow.
You're ending this thing because you are going to a club now. We know it's 10 o'clock in Nigeria. It's okay. You are dressed up. You can
be going. You're right. Hello. Good evening, sir.
You see, Georgina is
who is that?
Georgina is supporting.
Georgina, I can't remember your last name.
Idika, Senior Kenny, Idika.
How are you? Hey, forward. Where are you there?
Right now, I'm in PA, Pennsylvania.
I'm seeing Bolanle. Oh, is that Bolanle or Remo?
Yeah. So nice to see you. How's your
Bolanle or Remo too?
Edward. Edward is fine. He's in Abuja.
Oh, Bolanle or Remo too?
Bolanle, yeah.
Is that Bolanle or Remo?
Odulami, yes. I knew you would come online and correct me. Good to see you. Although you people don't want to show up on video so we can see your faces. In case we are sharing money on the road so that we can identify you.
Senior Doze, please. So
see, Michael, you don't show your face. Michael,
I'm here.
I don't know when you need to be the senior assistant to the president on communication.
Please, Ajala, begging you.
What did I do?
Remove that picture. Ajala, remove this picture. You look like Babalawo. Remove that picture. Asana Babalawo. Remove it. And red red. This is Asana. Remove it. I'm telling you.
Jala is the one that sends us whether they should talk to you or
it
not.
sends us all the communications.
Sends us decides who to talk to
I
you.
see Abubakar and you.
Ajala is not
Abu,
loyal.
good to see you.
He's not.
Jose,
Yes.
Ajala is our team. Not loyal. So, it's so, I don't know, is it, permit me to use the word, loyal. Is it loyal? Not loyal.
By their work, you shall know them, but he's been doing good work, so well done.
Thank you, Jerry. I know very soon now I'll come there. I'll come and meet Senior Kemi. I'm very soon I'm coming.
No, Michael
In
Ali.
my right,
Like I
I'll
said,
write
I mean, that's the
application.
of too. Even if it's
I'll write application about
Rahila Kayode.
So a few seconds. Oh yeah, now kilo share. Vero.
Turn on your cameras for a
Your
minute.
face,
You know, next time we
so
should just have people write their class
face.
next to. See, Prof. I said
No,
no.
She has running.
Vero. My sister, my sister.
Prof, please say hello to our guy. It's been a long time.
Vero, I'm so happy to see you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
What is your feedback for your babes? We'll go talk later, Abby.
I'm happy to be here too. So good night, everyone.
All right, good night.
Vero, Georgina, you can remember Georgina now.
Georgina Dozie.
Yes.
No, he asked me very well.
Vero, you can't remember Georgina. She was in Niger House with us now.
No,
Senegal. She was in Senegal.
All of you claiming Senegal House people.
From Niger to Senegal. You were in Niger before they moved you to Senegal.
Oh, I was never in Niger.
You were
He
never
was in Senegal all through. Senegal all through. She was in Senegal all through.
Well, Senegal was created later now. The female.
Yeah.
But by the time Georgina was in Senegal, it was already created.
Was already created.
Yes.
2 years behind me, right?
Yeah, 94.
3.
93.
Wow. 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so maybe but you remember Vero now. I think when you came in, Vero was still in HSC.
Yes, now house captain. Of course.
She was Niger house captain. Oh yeah. Senior Vero and Tola Devi.
Yes.
I remember.
Yes.
You remember Vero when we used to do essays together.
There were church girls.
You can remember her
There
now. She was
church girls.
like me. I was very lekpatu.
Abdul Wahab.
Boy,
want us to see you.
Senior Kemi was no nonsense, all action, labor prefect. No nonsense. Wow.
No, but you guys put me now. I mean, Daddy was my head.
Labor prefect.
No, it wasn't my fault. I give
no, you were
all transgressions to Daddy because Daddy would call me and say, Katie, what? I was in trouble a lot.
All action, man.
I was doing my
job. Good. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Yeah.
So good to see you.
Oh my God.
No problem.
You have my number.
So good night.
All right.
You don't have my number. Seyi can give it to you. Then,
Prof.
If I get Georgina's number, I will connect you guys.
All right, man.
All right.
You'll pay finder's fee.
No,
all right, Bola, take care.
We are starting another program already. Good night.
Bye. Thank you so much. Bye.
What you are doing is not good.
Lagos chapter chairman, I can see you there. You keep quiet. You'll be doing this thing. Lagos chapter chairman, I can see you. You and your
guys gone already.
Now well done. No, I can see him there. Michael, Lagos chapter chairman, is still there.
All right.
Okay.
Later.
Good night.
Good night, Vera. Good night. All right. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Yeah.